Let's take a look at some very simple single source publishing accomplished in regular FrameMaker. As you'll see, this is quite a contrast to Word because we're going to be using something called variables, and there's a loose equivalent to variables in Word, but it actually requires macros and something that somewhat resembles programming languages. Basically, we've got three variables defined: alpha, beta, and boot. These are the three that I'm going to be using. First of all, let me show you how easy it is to actually input this. If I wanted to add some text here that talked about these three products, I can say you should install the Control 0, allow me to put in alpha, A for alpha, first, then Control 0, B for beta product, next, and finally connect them to, and I'll use the last one, which is boot. And it will drop in that definition. Now, some of this text may appear to be blue. I have applied a little bit of color, which may or may not show in this recording. One of the nice things about variables is that they're very easy to redefine. And once you've changed the definition, you can actually import it from another document and have them all change. Here's a quick example. Let's just take the alpha product, and you might be using a temporary name for a product that's not released. So I'm going to change this to just manual input typewriter. There we go. Simply click on Edit, watch the screen. You'll see that it changed rather quickly. And actually, as we move up here, you'll see that in all cases, wherever that was used, it now says manual input typewriter in all caps. And as you can see, there are quite a few instances of that. I happen to actually have another template, which I'm going to open up here. This template is empty. It has all of the values necessary to create this document, but you'll see that the alpha and the beta and the boot storage, which actually should be spelled with a G, is completely different. It has totally different definitions. In addition, we've actually changed the definition of one of our character styles to go into small caps. And I did this on purpose so it would be really easy to see the changes. I go ahead and import those values. So what we do is we simply file, import the formats. Now we could import all the formats if we want to. And I want to import them from the first template, but I also could say that I simply want to bring in just the variable definitions and nothing else. Perhaps the variable definitions and the character formats. And watch what happens as we do this. Okay, as you can see in a jiffy, this has changed the definitions of all three of these variables, and in addition, it's actually dropped in a different definition for our blue character style that we're using. We actually have more going on here as well because we want to be able to create different versions of this document, and that's where conditional text comes in. This is a rather simple plan. You'll see that I've got three different conditions: alpha, beta, and one called boot, that I can apply to my text. Now, when you're using conditional text, it's very helpful if you can actually see where it is and what it looks like. And we do that with the show hide settings. Down here at the very bottom, it says show condition indicators. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on and apply it. And as I do that, you'll see that a lot of text has changed to color. Here you'll see that some of the text is actually magenta or even green based on what condition it is. And the alpha text is green. The other colors apply to some of our other text. Another thing to be aware of if we turn on our text symbols is if you've got an anchored frame that's inside of conditional text, that anchored frame will disappear if we decide to hide that particular condition. This condition is called boot. Let's see what happens if we apply it. Notice that that paragraph along with the graphic disappears. If I move it back into the show window, you'll see that it reappears or it comes back. Now we are actually able to save templates that have different settings for conditions. So we have the same condition, the same conditions are defined in this document: alpha, beta, and boot. In fact, they're even defined to have the same colors. The only difference is that in the show hide settings over here, in the hide window, you'll see that we are actually making two of our conditions temporarily disappear. This is why we call this single source publishing. This allows us to make some of the text disappear. So we've decided that in this particular template, we'd like to have a different definition of our variables, and we'd like to hide all of our conditions except for the alpha product line. So I'm going to import all of the values from my number 2 template. Let's go back over here to this one and see what happens. I'm going to make the text a little bit smaller so you can see it better. And I'm simply going to say File, Import, Formats. In this case, I'm going to say that I'd like to select everything from my number 2 template. Now, as we do this, we should see this the little set of 4 typewriters disappear. Ta-da! And that actually did happen. And if you're able to see the color here, you'll see that the only condition that really remains is the text that has the green color, which is part of our alpha condition. If we look inside, we'll see that the other conditions are still there. What is the benefit of this, you might ask yourself? The benefit is that we have a single document that will produce 3 different versions. So for instance, if I made a simple change like turning this black unconditional text to all capitals, I've just updated all 3 versions of my document. So if I were to take my conditions back and perhaps I wanted to change the show hide settings so that we're going to look at the beta version instead of alpha, and they'll make quite a few things disappear. There we go. But we will notice that whatever text I change to all caps is still going to stay in that condition. And here you can see it says Presidential Consultant in all caps. This concludes our demonstration, but this actually gives you an idea of just how simple it is to use conditions and variables together to be able to combine perhaps 3 different manuals into one, where maybe as much as 60% of your text is shared between all of them.